Our next lesson will talk about columns, adding columns to your document. Now, I'm going to quickly show you a nice little trick from Word. Let's say you want to play with the structure of your document, but you don't have any text to work with yet. You can actually quickly insert dummy text for testing different structures, styles, and to play with Word. To do that, type equal the word lorem, L-O-R-E-M, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, no spaces, and then hit enter on your keyboard. Word will add dummy text for you. Again, equal L-O-R-E-M, open parenthesis. If you type a number, for example 10, and then end parenthesis, no spaces, hit enter on your keyboard, Word will create 10 paragraphs of dummy text. If anyone has taken Latin before, you might recognize the text, but if you haven't, no worries, we're just going to use it to practice different structure in Word. To add columns, we're going to go to the Page Layout ribbon, and in the Page Setup group we see the Columns command. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight a section of my text, and I want this section of text to be in 2 columns. So I'm going to highlight the text, go to my Columns command, choose 2. Notice that Word took my selected text and put them into 2 columns. If I hit the undo button up at the top, I undo the columns. And let's say I don't highlight text. I go up to my Columns command, click 2, it will apply 2 columns to the entire document. I'm going to hit undo one more time, and I'm going to highlight some text and apply 2 columns to that highlighted text. If you prefer, there is another way to add columns to your document. You can go to Columns and then select More Columns. This will open up the Columns dialog box. From here, you can specify exactly how many columns you want, as well as the specific width and spacing for each column. You can tell it to apply to a specific section, or from this point forward, which means from the current position of your cursor and everything you write in front of it, or to an entire document. If, for instance, you want columns to have different widths and lengths, make sure this button is unchecked and then type how much spacing and width you would like each column to have. One more tip about columns before we move on. When you're using a column, you might want to apply a break and a column break at the end of your columns. Breaks are found on the Page Layout ribbon and the Page Setup group. Click on Breaks, and then make sure your cursor is at the end of your column and apply a column break. This means that when you have to edit a large amount of text in one column, it will not affect what's in the other column. So this is important to keep your columns distinct. If that's not necessary, then you don't have to apply the column break. For our next lesson, we're going to talk about inserting tables into your Word document. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my text, and I'm going to open up the Insert ribbon, and on the Insert ribbon is the Tables group with the Tables command. There are 2 ways you can add a table into your Word document. The first way is by choosing Insert Table, and then in the Insert Table dialog box, you can tell how many columns and rows you would like your table to have, and you can determine if you wanted a fixed column width, which means every cell within the table would be the same size, or if you want to auto-fit the table and the cells to match the contents. And you can also tell your Insert Table dialog box to remember your settings for future tables that you might insert into your document. I'm going to click Cancel. Go back to Tables. The second way you can add tables into your document is just by scrolling over the grid squares in the Draw Table area. Notice that as I move my cursor over, certain grid lines are highlighted and a table appears in my document. So that when I scroll over 6 blocks, as you see with my cursor here on the screen, a table that is 3 by 2 appears. I'm going to go ahead and make a 3 by 3 table, and when I finish scrolling over the area, I just click, and now I have a 3 by 3 table. The blinking cursor is in the first cell, and by the way, where a row and a column intersect, this is a cell, and I can type my data. I can use my cursor to click into the different cells to type my data, or I can use the Tab key to move into the next cell and to the right. If I hit the Enter key on my keyboard, it makes that cell a little bit larger, so I can have more space to type words. When you hit the Tab key, it takes you to the next available cell. So I'm just going to type some data. If I like the way the table looks now, I can leave it. Or if I go up to the Table Tools contextual ribbon, I see Design and Layout. If I click Layout, that allows me to insert more rows and columns, or to delete the table entirely. On the Design ribbon and the Table Tools contextual ribbons, I can give a style to my table. Notice that as I scroll over my table, the style is previewed on my actual document. I can click the drop down area to look at more styles. I'm going to pick the blue style, Dark Accent 5, and down here at the bottom you can see that style applied to my table. If I don't like it, I can select another table, and I can do this as many times as I need to. On the corner we see a little 4 area arrows. Move your cursor over it and your cursor will also become 4 arrows. When you see that, you can click and drag to move your table in your document. And that's how you insert tables into Word 2013.